Hello again everyone, my name's Derailious, and it's another Run Around the Hub video today, and the title is in fact correct. There is 18 or so updates that have been announced over the past year in Hypixel Skyblock, and today I didn't really want to go into detail about the updates. I wanted to talk about how this number is extremely imposing, and also not great that it keeps on growing and not shrinking. So before we begin, I probably should tell you what those updates are, and I'll go over the list right now. There's the Great Glaciate Lake, there's Year of the Witch, there's Galatea Island 2 and 3, there's Iron Man W's, there's the Lotus Atoll and Guardian Slayer, there's Diana V2, there's the Magic Find rework, there's the Crimson Isle Armor Cost nerf, there's the Greenhouse, which is the Garden Part 1, there is a Part 2 to that update that should be adding more custom crops and things like that, there is Hoppity V4, the Dungeon Breaker update, the Breach at the top of the mountain, as well as chapters on pretty much all the other islands, a resource pack UI update that will also include models for stuff like the Goblin Raid, and the Stranded End of Life update. That is 18, count 'em, updates, and none of those were announced a very long time ago. All of that has been announced within the last 12 months. I think like the majority were announced either with the 2024 recap or with the Foraging updates release. This is not great that they have announced so many updates of some considerable size without actually releasing quite a few of them. I also have a problem, especially recently, with the way that they're utilizing certain pieces of terminology when talking about updates quote-unquote coming soon or coming this year. Like, in terms of the stuff that was promised for this year, obviously you have the stuff in the 2024 recap, but you also have stuff like the Breach, Galatea Island 2, and especially recently with stuff like the Greenhouse, it's just become extremely hard to know what is actually coming next for the game, and to actually get excited about future content, because they've promised so much and delivered not that much. It's just become extremely difficult for me to get excited about certain things because I don't know what's going to come next. If they dropped one of those updates on the list that I just gave you every single month, which would be pretty fast paced for them, especially considering a lot of those updates are pretty big, they wouldn't be done until the middle of 2027. You know what I mean? I want to be really hopeful about this and be able to tell you, no, it's fine. They're working on some big expansion, guys. Trust me, the copium is flowing. Like, don't worry. We're going to get, like, Island 2 and 3 and Lotus Atoll and Guardian Slayer all bundled together in an update, like, in October or November. But they haven't given me any reason to believe that that's on the table. And it's just kind of concerning because I don't really know what's happening internally for them to announce all of these updates and then not seemingly be able to keep up with their deadlines even after the Foraging updates release. Like, before the Foraging update, there was always a reasonable expectation of, don't worry, updates are taking forever because the Foraging update, back end, very, very difficult. They had that update, they stated that the update was done in, like, August of 2024. Everything after August of 2024, they weren't actually working on content for Foraging. They were doing some hunting stuff, and they were working on the back end for the update. That's a long period of time. That's a close to 12-month span where, the first island of Galatea was done. What else was realistically being worked on, like, in large capacity during that time? You know what I mean? Like, obviously, we got the mountaintop, but I don't think the mountaintop was really the thing taking up that huge span of time. Obviously, they had production on some of these other updates that they announced in the 2024 recap. My only question is, where are they? Where are things like Iron Man W's, which were announced, once again, beginning of this year? Where are things like, I don't know, Galatea Island 2 was announced to be coming this year as well. And I feel like we haven't gotten a good roadmap, a good look at, what updates are still on the table, what isn't. We've gotten some vague stuff about them wanting to do Guardian Slayer. They implied they wanted to do Guardian Slayer as well this year. That would imply that Lotus Atoll, Guardian Slayer, and at the very least Greenhouse are the remaining updates this year, and also Dungeon Breaker. I just find that kind of hard to believe. I don't know. Maybe I'm a little jaded with the fact that I've been doing this for years, and I've always been used to this kind of wishy-washy back and forth in terms of how the team discusses things, but I really hope that at Hypixel they put out some sort of roadmap post. I don't care if a third of those updates are scrapped, just come out and say it, you know what I mean? If they're like, listen, Hop and EV4, we're not doing that. That's not really a high priority for us. I'm not going to be too upset. You know what I mean? If they're like, Year of the Witch, it sounded really cool, not happening. If they say GGL, that was a good idea, but we're not going to do it because we changed our opinion of how we want to do fishing-related content. So be it. Fine. I just want some sort of streamlining here to be able to actually figure out what the future of the game holds. Like, is 1.0 still on the table? Like, that was supposed to be a major expansion, quote-unquote. Like, what are the major things that we're meant to be looking forward to for the rest of this year and going into the next? It's just kind of hard at the moment to, like, actually determine, how things are meant to look in the near future. I think something else I want to specifically note here related to, like, what I'm talking about is that I don't really believe that we're, like, super undercooked in terms of how much content we've gotten this year. Like, it's fine that we haven't gotten a major, huge expansion, like, every 2 weeks. Like, that's whatever. Obviously, I do wish that we got more this year. It's just a problem of over-promising and under-delivering that just feels like it's chronic at Hypixel at this point, which, like, I wish I didn't have to say, but it does feel like that. Where every year they're like, don't worry guys, in the recap we're going to throw in a bunch of updates that we're so excited to release, and about 30% of them come out and the other 70% are just left to the dustbin. I just wish that stopped. I wish we got more consistent roadmaps that were maybe accurate, and if things weren't accurate anymore, maybe they could come out and say it. Like, they have to be okay with the fact that not everything, if they're going to not release everything they talk about, if they're going to talk about things in a very early state, they also have to be okay with talking to the community about the fact that, like, those updates are no longer on the table. You know what I mean? Just so we're not left in this sort of state where I'm just like, 18 updates, very, very excited to talk about it. Maybe only 6 will come out over the next 6 to 12 months. You know what I mean? Like, that's my issue. I really hope it changes. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong. Realistically, I'm actually hoping that, like, this video ages like milk, and, like, tomorrow we get a huge update, and the week after we get another one, and then so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Where they catch up on this list and the game prospers, because I do think a lot of the updates they've talked about could absolutely make this game prosper. And get back to a very good, stable position. They just need to lock in and do it, and I hope they do, and I wish them luck in doing so. And it should be possible, considering they've stated, since the release of Foraging, it'll allow them to make more complex updates more often. Kind of have heard the talk from Hypixel at this point, just waiting for the walk, you know what I mean? Yeah, that's really about it for me. I'm not really, like, miserable about this or anything like that. It's just, like, a thing that's been on my mind as I've been trying to put together, like, Skyblock Next, which should be coming, like, next week, realistically. I don't really have much else to say. Thank you so much for watching and listening to my silly rants, as per usual. You're in for a special episode of Skyblock News when Derailious is just bouncing around the hub and just yapping for a little bit. Anyway, make sure to like and subscribe. Code Rail, Hypixel Store. Hypixel, drop a roadmap or something, please. Just go over everything. Be honest. If an update's not nearly done, don't say coming very soon. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's it for me. Look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.